I'm Renee Richel, the founder and president of One True Match. I'm here to help you find and cultivate the love of your life. For over a decade, I've dedicated my life to the importance, purpose, and dynamic of human relationships. My team and I are disciplined by faith, love, and integrity to help our clients find the quality relationship they've always dreamt of. Each week, I will be sharing the tools and tips I've learned that have rooted my success as a matchmaker with other leaders around the world.
Hello, loves. Welcome back to another fun True Talk. We are sitting here with my favorite, Connie, today because all things when it comes to questions I feel like that come from our clients that we talk about on a weekly basis in our team meetings and just in general across the platform of the matchmaking industry and just love and relationships altogether. Today we are going to talk about something that I feel like has come up like the buzzword of, I don't know if the month or just the season we're in.
Yeah.
And so today we're going to talk about whether or not you are in a situationship, as they call it now, because that's like all how they try to entwine words together, right? To create something that's all of the latest. So we are going to talk about what is a situationship, and are you in one to try to avoid being in those situations so that you don't continue down the wrong path of somebody that is a situational type situation. How's that?
that was a whole lot of situation in there. But yeah, and it's also to some people that also can't be in a relationship. Some people fall themselves in the category of situationship. And then also in the time where maybe it's just progressing really, really slow and they kind of get themselves stuck in this phase. I'm using phase instead of situation, so we don't say it too many times. And by the end of this podcast, you're going to go to bed tonight listening to us saying situation.
You're just going to hear us go shh like all night, right? Like the whole podcast, right? So let's get into like what actually a situationship is, right? Because some people know what that is. Some people don't. You know, at the end of the day, we didn't create this word, so don't judge us for the best of our understanding of what people are turning this into something that shouldn't even be in the definition of a word. But you know what, we're going to deal with what people are doing to call something, to put a title around a situation, right? So a situationship is somebody that is basically in a relationship but not quite there, that it's more than a friendship. So you know, like, I mean, so many times we get individuals that will say, I can't get out of the friend zone. So here's a perfect example. You're either in the friend zone or you're in the relationship zone. But now we've got a situationship of being people in a situationship. So they're like in the friend zone and they can't really quite cross over to the relationship zone, but they're in the relationship zone and they can't quite commit to something deeper that's an actual relationship, hence where the word situationship came from, which is absurd. Yeah, I think we should all work on just actually being in a relationship or not being in a relationship.
You're either committing or you're not committing.
Or you're not. It's like single, married, dating, engaged, or like you can't, or you don't. You're not in like. There's no phase on any form you fill out that says I'm in a situationship.
Yeah,
because nobody would accept your form.
Exactly, and let's be honest, if you start to go into, if you put a title on something, just like you're single, a lot of singles stay single. If you're in a relationship, you stay in a relationship usually. So if you're saying, hey, I'm in a situationship, guess what? You're probably going to get stuck in that situationship.
Well, here's the thing. Nobody actually admits they're in a situationship. It's the evaluation of what you do when you're out there dating enough on your own, right? And you're trying to figure out, am I starting to get into a situationship relationship? This is like a tongue-tied teaser.
I feel like
whatever.
Our English teachers from school need to listen to this and give us A stars or something.
Right.
For being able to.
But the point is, if you're going to put anything in a title that actually has relationship in it, it has to be something that is mindset in the direction of being committed to somebody. So situationships are things that, like, we literally just did a podcast about being ghosted and benching or something, right? And like all of these things. But if somebody is not being doesn't commit. Somebody that doesn't talk about like long term, is somebody that is kind of making last minute plans with you, is somebody that's not responsive, or somebody that's kind of like, I would say, here today, gone tomorrow, and they're just kind of, I don't mean to say ghosting, because we just did a podcast on that, because ghosting is like, you're done, they're gone forever, right? They're a ghost, they're gone. But somebody that like doesn't like to make plans with you, and they're more like you're convenient when they want or they're bored to hang out with you, is what I would consider a situationship.
Yeah, and I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say it. I mean, I'm going to say it. But we've all heard of the term friends with benefits. People fall into like, oh, it's convenient. It's a convenient, not actually like true definition. But that's almost like a situationship. It's the convenient factor of it without committing. So you don't really want to get yourself into one of these. It's okay if it's a along the stepping stone situationship. Like, it's like, okay, we're dating, we kind of getting in a situation that we're just like figuring some stuff out in a situationship, but we're moving on to the relationship. But you don't want to get stuck in that situation for
Okay, the only time that I am giving somewhat merit to a situationship, just saying, is as long as you're not sleeping with each situationship you're in, if that's even a word, right? Because the reality of it is like too many times when you get into that friends with benefits, which is exactly what we're talking about, which is the toxic zone of not actually being intentional in a relationship prior to obviously being exclusive and in love with somebody, is you can, when people come out of either long-term relationships or they haven't dated in years, I think it is important to definitely, date and try, like connections where you're like figuring out what you need and want, right?
Yeah.
That's like in those scenarios, it's like you've got to figure out who you are, what you want, and what your long-term plan is when you've come from a 20-something, 17, even a 7-year relationship, right? Like today, the dating world has completely changed today than it ever was, right? So, but in those scenarios, you also have to be super careful of some of these little tendencies that then people can get really comfortable in the uncommittal space.
Yeah.
Because they're also like, they can go online or they can check out the next person. And if you're
like technically together.
If you like, God forbid you dress the wrong way or you don't like do something, like now we're going to discount them. Not because, you know what, they could be your forever mate and you could go shopping, or maybe they have something that externally could be different, which is such an easy fix. Like, this part as a matchmaker drives me absolutely nuts, because at the end of the day,
it's all the little nitty gritty,
right? Like, at the end of the day, it's about the core of who somebody is. Do you need to keep up with like the latest trends to also be in a place where you're attracting the opposite sex? Absolutely. God made somebody to create clothes for a reason, right? And I, coming from a fashion background, it does matter to me, right? Like, in the sense of like, is somebody tailored? Is somebody put together? Do they care enough to present their best foot forward?
Yeah.
Everybody can do what they want to do, but like, if you want to attract a certain type, right, you have to also portray the same type to attract that type. Across the board, which I am now going off on a whole nother tangent. But these situations that people get into, it's because they are always seeking something visually better or something that they feel they deserve could be better.
Yeah, and it's going through that whole emotional vulnerability too. Like, you want a relationship, but you're settling for a situationship. Situationship?
Yeah, situationship.
Yeah, you're settling for that. So that also puts you in a category that makes you very emotionally vulnerable. You then don't want to say what you're feeling, or if you've heard our podcast before, that we talk about communication, what that looks like, When you're in these situations, in that middle zone, shall we say, is that you're then allowing yourself not to practice those things like your communication, because you're just letting it slide. You're acting kind of like your relationship, but you're kind of not. So you can't go in and say, hey, this is what I want for our future. Hey, this is what I want, because you're stuck in this middle zone.
Right.
So I personally would say, if you're stuck in that zone, you either get that commitment on how to get to the next, or you leave it, because it's not going to, if you're going to just staying in a place that makes you feel very comfortable but with no commitment, you know, and people say nothing good happens in your comfort zone, right?
Right. Like if there's literally no evolution of growth.
Yeah.
From your first, second, I mean, in our business, we always talk about with our client, our goal is to get you to that 5th date. First of all, we have to get you to that first date.
Yeah.
Then we need to get you to the 3rd date. Then we need to get you to the 5th date. And whatever magically happens across the board, when our clients have gone out on that 7th date, they are now on the path of a forever mate. And I don't mean to obviously we're always like putting a plug in for matchmaking, but so many times people worry about, you know, the 1st date, the 2nd date. I'm like, focus on getting to the 3rd date. And stop only thinking about, is this going to go well? What's going to happen on the 1st date?
Can be shambles. I hate to say it, can be shambles.
It could be a complete disaster.
And
the
then
server could have just broken up with their whoever. They could have just thrown food at you. I mean, it could be, you could have the worst day of your life, and you're going to go on this. So we have 2 choices in life.
Yeah, and you can be nervous.
Right? So we can, like, see somebody for who they are, for all that they are, or we can unload our entire life baggage, which is attractive to, let me think about this, no one on a first date. Because
she's coming in sassy.
At the end of the day, we've recorded a couple podcasts today, so I feel like you gotta listen to all of our different podcasts to be like, I'm on fire now. But so the point is, and I'm on fire on the people that are in situationships that allow themselves to be treated like this, and I'm really on fire for the people that are the individuals that are putting people in situationships.
Yeah.
Because either, like we talked about this, you're either in or you're out.
You can't have one foot in, one foot out. I hate to say it. What is it? You can't eat the cake and...
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Or something.
Right.
Something like that.
Yes.
Basically, that's what situationship is. Like, you can't have it all. Like,
you can't.
It's tough luck. Well, unless you make it a relationship and make it official. But you can't be in a situationship and think that you can do... You know, have this here, have this there, have partnership there, still be in the dating line. Like, either commit or don't be at all. Either be single or be in a relationship.
Right.
Like,
or be singly, like, investigating your own self of who you are, so that when you're in these relationships, you don't keep screwing them up. Like, so many times people are like, well, we can't find this relationship, or I don't know how to do this. Well, okay, your situationship right now is your own situation. Like, and I'm not trying to be hard here, but, like, I really hope anybody that's listening to this literally doesn't take this as me upset or yelling at you. I hope that you take this more as, like, okay, I want to be in a relationship. Why do I keep ending up in these situationships?
It's a wake-up call.
As a wake-up call.
Yeah.
It's so true, because the reason why is because people do not, over and over and over and over again, I can repeat this till I am blue in the face, do not give people a chance and the benefit of the doubt to truly discover who their identity is. And so many people in today's day of dating have to put up their guard and put up their shell and like be somebody that's not even realistically who they are, because they feel they need to be an identity of something else to attract what they deserve, which is the biggest lie you could ever tell yourself.
Yeah, and also it's being in that mindset of, oh, this is all I want. I know as a matchmaker, we do this over. We give people what they want, you know, well, it's great, gone out on a date, but what? There's one thing missing. There might be one thing missing. I don't know what it is. It's not on my list, but it might be one thing missing. Well, guess what? I hate to say it, but it's more for you're scared. You're putting yourself in a crappy situation by not taking a chance and loving someone for who they are and being what you, instead of living in this little picture dream world that you see, and I'm going to throw Disney under the bus like Renee usually does, but not living in a fairy tale. When you find that person, don't always think, like, people who tend to be in situationships are people that always think that they can do better.
Right.
And I hate to throw gentlemen under the bus, but there is who I've experienced it most with recently, is that they think they have a checklist, meet the checklist, actually let me go again. Let me add things to this checklist. No, that's when you know in yourself, and it's what you truly want out of something, whether it's a relationship or a marriage or a long term, that you're not just checking the check boxes, that you are truly finding someone to spend your forever with. And that's how to not get, like, they're the people that tend to get themselves in a situationship because they just can't figure it out. And like Renee said, the root to that is probably deep down within themselves too.
Absolutely. And we're not throwing men under the bus here, because it can be in male or female situations, right? Like,
I'm just giving an example.
However, as a Christian, I feel it is a man's job to also not just be a boy into a man, but a gentleman. And so women, for whatever reason, and men, for the majority, want to be in a committed relationship for whatever reason. And maybe it's online dating, and I'm not bashing that, because there are people that meet through those type of sites and things like that. But the reality of it is it's like too many options don't allow people to actually work on what God is bringing them that could be right in front of them. Or in our situations, we're always like, the nitty gritty details when it comes to like your vision, like you're saying, can be so different if we just actually focused on a relationship. So if you're somebody that's wondering, am I in a situationship? Does somebody like me? Are they like in it for the long haul? Is there like this evolution of growth, is what I like to say. Like if you're not evolving towards the long haul plan of a goal to be in a forever plan, then you're right. It's not somebody that's situational. It's just somebody that's not relational. Yeah. Like somebody that doesn't want a long-term relationship. And we talk about this all day long, is like, even some of our clients that come to us and they ask those questions, like, I don't know, I don't want to be in a situationship, like this has been my past. They're actually sometimes bringing that baggage of past routine into their new way of thinking, and they don't even allow somebody that is actually relational without breaking it down to them because of this past pattern.
Yeah, and people just let it like oversee their whole dating basically career. Let's say dating career. I mean, you almost have
a career.
Yeah, you have a whole dating career. You basically go in and you.
As long as it's not a job. There's a difference between a job and a career. A career should be something you want to forever evolve and grow. Right? There's rewards in that.
Yeah. And it's basically like having a dating career. And if you have been in the same situationships the whole time in all of your career, you're probably going to get stuck in it if you don't learn to grow yourself too. And people and also like people will say, oh yeah, we're doing really well, we're working in the same direction, but we haven't talked about, and I will bang on all day about communication. Like, I mean, anyone that knows me, anyone that has come across me, anyone that's listened to me on the podcast before is probably know that I'm going to have a communication plug in there somewhere. But it also comes with communication. People will say to us, oh yeah, we're doing really great, we've been together for 3 years, but we don't know our future plans, we don't know if we're going to get married, we don't, like, I'm sorry, although you may have the title of a relationship, you're probably in a situationship because you don't have a clue what's going on. Like, communication is gonna help you flow straight past that little middle ground and get into a healthy, loving, amazing relationship or marriage.
I totally agree. So I think if you take anything away from this topic that is such a buzz trend word, I feel like, of situationship, is first of all, choose if you want to be in a relationship or a situationship. And if you're in a situationship situation, please use it as a growing tool to learn something about your own situation, which is yourself.
Yes.
And don't bring somebody else into that. And what I mean by that is it is important to go on first dates. It is important to go on second dates. It is important to get to know somebody. But if in that process, at any point you realize you are not going to get to that fifth date, that seventh date, or that forever date to be an exclusive relationship, then kindly excuse yourself. Kindly say, I adore you. You're amazing, but I don't see us going in the path of forever. So for that, I'd love to prayerfully pray for you. And if I know anybody, I'll introduce you to them, or vice versa, and blah, blah, blah. But then cut bait. And then find somebody that you two are progressing in the path to that seventh, to that golden date, we kind of call it, and then commit to a relationship to see where it might go. Again, I mean, we can't preach this enough, but if you're not dating with intention, then there's somebody, there's nothing, right, don't date at all. And there's nothing wrong with them, but they might not be in the right place in their life to truly be ready for a 100% relationship like you are because they have a situation that they need to still figure out in their own mind and heart, right?
Yeah, and you have to invest in yourself to figure that out too. And however it may be, or if you're in one, you need to self-reflect to figure out what your next steps are, really.
Right. Like I always say, love starts with you, with God. Yeah. So all things are possible. So
and avoid it if that's not what you want. If, like, of course, if you're ready for a relationship, don't settle for less by sticking in that box.
Yes. And somebody that is relationship minded will talk about the future.
Yeah.
So go down the path of the future and not get lost in the weeds of the moment. And I mean that in a way, right? Like it is a journey to fall in love, and it should be a journey that continuously grows and doesn't just stop. So we hope that you have found this topic of conversation, and we love it when people write in. This has actually come from like 10 other people that we got this topic of, like, you have to describe and say what a situationship is and explain to people to either not be in it, to be in it, but at the end of the day to avoid the whole terminology of that's what you're labeled as, because nobody wants to be labeled as you're that player, you're that uncommittal person, or you're that situationship person.
You're second best. You haven't quite made best, but you're in the middle ground.
Right. You're better off not dating, so that when you're preserving yourself for your future wife or your future husband, you are truly committed and you are truly ready to fall in love for that utopia love that we all have in our heads, that we want, that God has designed for us to feel and have. So, yeah. We hope that you are never in a situationship.
And if you
are, call us. We are here for you. We're going to make sure that you find somebody that is equally at the same level of what you're looking for in all things relationship. So we're going to love and leave you and hope you have a blessed day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
It's been another great talk on this episode of One True Talks by Renee Richel. I look forward to our next chat. Please write in your questions and comments so I can be sure to talk about whatever it is you want to discuss in our next upcoming episode. Lots of love. God bless. XOXO.